Yeah, for anyone that's obviously watching, we're about to discuss our electoral predictions. This is our final tallies of each states, what we think is going to happen. So, Zach, do you want me to put yours up?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and kind of talk about it. By no means do I think that Trump is not going to lose. I think by a lot of people's standards, it will be a steamrolling. I just think that at one point, you and I at least were predicting that this could be a really devastating election for Donald Trump. And there are a couple of states that I initially thought that Joe Biden would pick up that I'm just not as convinced about, Iowa being one that I mentioned. And I think one place that we might disagree, and I hope to see it go blue, but the polling that I've been seeing recently in Florida leads me to believe that it might actually go to Trump. So I actually did go ahead and give Florida to Trump. However, I gave Georgia to Biden. And I think, and my reasoning because of that, it's the same reasoning that I gave Iowa to Trump as well as Joni Ernst. I think that both the special election and the general Senate race in Georgia are both going to lean tighter Democrat. And typically people vote all the way down ballot. It's not always the case. Sometimes people will vote for a Democratic senator and a Republican president, but I think that dynamic helps Joe Biden in Georgia. And I think that dynamic might help Trump in some of these more Midwestern states that we consider toss-ups. Ohio, I think that Joe Biden has a decent chance at taking Ohio, a state that shouldn't even be really in play for a Democrat. So as well as Arizona, I think we both predict we'll go blue this time around, just with the shifting suburban dynamics there.
Yeah.
Texas.
I just want to mention on Arizona real quick. It's funny because in 2008, obviously John McCain was from Arizona, but now it seems like Joe Biden has kind of amassed a similar strategy or coalition to that John McCain style of campaign, where he was really appealing to the boomers and suburban people in places like Arizona. That's kind of Joe Biden's strategy now. So it's interesting to see how much the dynamics have flipped since then.
Yeah, especially when he's parading around guys like Colin Powell, of people who are really of the, 2000s political era, like McCain. It's certainly an interesting dynamic. Texas, I still keep red. I would love nothing more than tonight to watch Texas massive voter increase turn the country, but the state blue. I don't know if it'll quite happen tonight. So that would just be such a massive monumental thing. I'm not quite predicting it. But I do think my other most controversial pick probably that we should touch on is Pennsylvania. I just don't think that Trump's message is hitting there the way that it was in the past. And while I do think that Joe Biden has bungled a few questions when it comes to jobs in the region, I just think that he has a little bit more credibility there, a lot more credibility than somebody like Hillary Clinton, who was utterly despised. So I just think that a lot of his attacks don't land quite as hard, and that's why you're seeing the polling slip. So I think that Joe Biden will hold on to Pennsylvania, but I don't think it'll be by more than a point or two.
Yeah, I agree. I think also the whole Scranton Joe thing probably helps him there. The fact that he is from Pennsylvania definitely gives him a little bit of an edge there, and the fact that Delaware is so close, it's a neighboring state to Pennsylvania, so he kind of has that regional thing going on where people from that area are going to be more likely to pull the lever for him, just because it feels like he's of their ilk, even though that's, as we all know, not really true. Obviously Biden's a massive corporatist, but so yeah, I think also that Biden wins Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, if you want to pull up your your fucking Freudian slip. If you want to pull up your map, we can compare and contrast a little bit, and you can tell me what you've got.
Let me grab that.
Okay, so right off the bat, it looks fairly similar to mine. I think you've got a few extra blue states going.
Yeah, so I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here. I think Biden's going to win Texas, Florida, and Georgia.
That's the fucking haul, man. That's an ass whooping. You are right here are predicting a goddamn embarrassment for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think he's going to get 150 delegates. Biden's going to get 388. Obviously, this is definitely a little bit dramatic, but I was looking at some of these polling averages, and I have to say they've included some really bad polls along with the average that I think are actually weighing it down in Trump's favor. I think that a lot of the polling organizations are trying to double down on kind of weird strategies to try to make sure oversample likely Trump voters, just to make sure that nothing like 2016 happens again. I think they're really being overly generous to some certain right-wing polling organizations like Trafalgar, which has just bizarre methods that I don't agree with. And I think that that's making it look closer than it is. Frankly, I think that pretty much almost all states in the country right now are going through various levels of coronavirus spikes. I think that's easily the number one issue of this election. And I think that that's what it's going to come down to in every single one of these states, except for the ones that are just undeniably going to go red. Like, obviously the ones I have here, Idaho, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, that kind of stuff. But overall, yeah, I think that Biden has this. I think it's going to be a landslide.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I definitely, I mean, there are obviously scenarios, right, where Trump picks up Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, but I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
At this point, I think it is possible. A matter of how badly Trump's going to lose, which I think it stands for the whole election.
And also part of the reason I'm so confident in this map is that the whole election, we haven't really seen any major fluctuation in polling. It's been a pretty similar story the whole way along the way. And honestly, it reminds me of the Democratic primary when I personally really underestimated the boomer vote. The people that Joe Biden had on lock in the primary, I was just like, oh, they're not energetic enough. They're not filling up stadiums in the same way Bernie are. But those people come out to vote. And I think that, Biden's strategy this whole way has actually been low key kind of ingenious for just like going hardcore when it comes to appealing to that demographic. Obviously it's not from a political standpoint, it's a strategy that I hate because of that section of the population's politics. But when it just comes to courting the people that are going to show up to vote, and especially that are already voting, we've seen record high, early vote. I think that's definitely all going to Biden. I think
the dynamic was permanently altered when Trump lost the older vote, which is the bread and butter of the Republican Party. You cannot just write like, oh, only old people are getting it. Yeah, guess who's not fucking voting for you now? Old people. Like, what a fucking disastrous response. I mean, like, again, from just an electoral standpoint, obviously Trump doesn't give a fuck about old people, but I mean, he wants their vote at least. So you can't just come out and be like, 250,000 old people, those are people who fucking put you in office.
Exactly. And especially after Trump himself got the coronavirus and then continued to hold events without masks and continued to basically not take it seriously at all. I just think that's the worst possible strategy you could have taken coming up to these days. And also just, just leaning into the, where we got to save America from socialism. It's like, I don't think most people actually believe that that's what Joe Biden is offering to this country or that is that what he's going to bring. I just think Donald Trump his campaign has been so mismanaged every step of the way. It's been pathetic. He hasn't been hitting Biden on any of the things that actually could have maybe taken him down, like stuff like trade. Instead, it's just been this kind of embarrassing shit show, and Biden has been able to glide towards what I think is going to be a resounding victory. Now, obviously, I could be dead wrong. We'll see. But
yeah, I mean, I think that it'll definitely be a matter of how badly Trump loses this election.
And also, just to be clear, I'm not one of those people that in 2016 thought Trump had no chance. I actually made a $50 bet that I won that Trump would win that night. So like, I'm just saying, I'm not, this is not just me being optimistic. I genuinely, this time around, I think it's totally different. I think that we're headed for an interesting.
I was at a debate or like a public, it was like a public speaking class at Columbia the night of the fucking election, my freshman year.
Uh-huh.
And everybody in that it was a late night class too. So I think it started at like 7:30 and you could hear a fucking pin drop in that room. We didn't do fucking anything but stare at the results came in for 2 hours. Like
it went on pretty late too. I think it was like around 11.
Yeah, everybody went home and we were all like, oh, it's just, Hillary's gonna blah, blah, blah. It's just the South. We've got the South vote first, Pennsylvania,
Yeah, I remember the denial lasted pretty late into the night.
Yeah, dude. And then it was like 12 and everybody's really drunk and starts to set in the reality.
I remember Hillary didn't even concede on the night of the election. She waited until the next morning because she just couldn't deal with it. Yeah. That was anyway. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, I remember 4 years ago today, like it was a year or two ago. Honestly, I still have a very clear portrait. And to be honest, the last 4 years have gone by pretty quickly for me. It's kind of crazy that we're already at this point, like where we're potentially going to see Trump, get ousted. So I think that's a cause for celebration, regardless of. I mean, despite the fact that obviously neither of us are excited about the Democratic candidate.
100%. Yeah. And obviously, we'll have a lot more kind of commentary to get into tonight, but we just wanted to throw up our, I guess, Electoral College predictions.
Yep.
And I also made a map later tonight. We can dive in all of the Senate predictions for the races, because obviously we won't get results back for that immediately. And we'll use that for shit that we talk about during the live stream as we watch the results come in. So yeah, unless you had anything to add, Gavin, just make sure that you guys tune in for our live stream. We'll be hitting, I believe, around 9 o'clock Central. So wherever you are, configure your clocks accordingly. And yeah, we'll see you guys then.
Yeah, see you around 9 Central. You guys can chastise me if I was extremely horribly wrong with that map.
Yeah, there we go.